On September 26th of 1820, a man named Robert Gibbon Johnson sat on the courthouse steps in Salem, New Jersey, and ate an entire basket of tomatoes. All the spectators there before him were sure that he was going to die from doing that. Not only didn't he die, but he stood up, bowed, and walked away. The crowd was stunned. In that time of American history, people thought tomatoes were poisonous. They weren't terribly wrong to be suspicious about that at that point either. Wealthy people who ate tomatoes sometimes got sick. Sometimes they died. Why? I'll tell you towards the end of this video. In this part of American history, the tomato is the most widely grown vegetable in American gardens, and we all know the delicious reason why that's the case. Growing tomatoes well in Zone 4 takes a little planning. Our season is really short and tomatoes are greedy for warm weather. Hi, I'm Carol from Almost 2 Acres. In this part of my Zone 4 planting series, let's talk tomatoes.
In Zone 4, variety selection is not a casual decision. It is the decision. A tomato variety that needs 90 days to mature will not reliably ripen in our climate. A variety that needs 65 days, that's a Zone 4 tomato. The general rule, look for varieties with 70 days or fewer to maturity. Unless you're in the southern part of Zone 4 like I am, anything over 75 days is a gamble. Anything over 80 days is probably going to give you a lot of green tomatoes at the end of the season. Having said that, I plant early, mid, and late varieties, both for flavor and for timing, to always have something to look forward to. Cherry tomatoes are a smart Zone 4 choice because they mature faster than large fruited varieties and they produce all season long once they get going. Even in a cooler late summer, a cherry tomato will almost always give you a real harvest. Sun Gold is, in the opinion of a lot of gardeners, the best tasting cherry tomato available. Sun Sugar, its sister, is my favorite. Sun Gold is an indeterminate hybrid with golden orange fruits that are intensely sweet with a complex fruity flavor. They both ripen in about 57 to 60 days and produce abundantly all season. If you grow nothing else from this video, grow Sun Gold or Sun Sugar. Black Cherry is another excellent choice. Dark, rich, complex flavor with that classic heirloom depth. It ripens in about 65 days and handles the ups and downs of Zone 4 summers well. Juliet is technically a great tomato, but deserves a mention. It's incredibly productive, crack resistant, and ripens in about 60 days. It also has excellent disease resistance, which is important in our cool, damp 4 springs. Determinate tomatoes grow to a set size, produce their fruit in a more concentrated window, and then slow down. This actually works well in Zone 4 because you get your harvest before the season closes. They also tend to be more compact and easier to manage than tall, indeterminate varieties. Celebrity is the workhorse of Zone 4 slicing tomatoes. It's determinate, matures in about 70 days, has excellent disease resistance, and produces large, classic red tomatoes reliably even in cool summers. It's not the most exciting tomato, but when the classic red fruits hang on the vine while others are struggling, they're definitely worth having in my garden. Bush Early Girl is a compact, determinate version of the classic Early Girl. At about 65 days, with good flavor and manageable size, it is ideal for raised beds or containers. You can grow indeterminate varieties, and many Zone 4 gardeners like I do, but choose early ones. Early Girl at 62 days and Stupus, a beloved Czech heirloom, at about 60 days are both indeterminate and early enough to work well in our climate. Just know that very tall indeterminates like Brandywine at 90 plus days may leave you disappointed if you're not in the southern part of Zone 4 as I am. Tomato seeds need to be started indoors 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost date. In Zone 4, with a late frost around May 10th to the 15th, that means starting seeds in late March to early April. Write that down. Late March to early April, not January, not February. I know it's tempting to start early because the seed catalogs arrive in January and you're excited and the ground is frozen and you want to do something. Starting tomato seeds in January in Zone 4 gives you enormous, overgrown, root-bound plants that are desperate to go outside in a frozen world. They get stressed, they develop problems, and they don't actually produce earlier than a properly timed transplant started in late March. Start in small cells or plug trays using a good seed starting mix. Sow 2 seeds per cell, about a quarter-inch deep. Keep the tray somewhere warm. Tomato seeds want 70 to 80 degrees for germination. A heat mat set under the tray makes a real difference here. Germination typically happens in 5 to 10 days. Once seedlings are up and have their first set of true leaves, the second set of leaves, which look more like actual tomato leaves, thin to 1 seedling per cell by snipping the weaker one at the base. Tomato seedlings need a lot of light. A south-facing window in late March in Zone 4 is almost never sufficient. The days are still short, the light angle is low, and the seedlings lean toward the window and get leggy fast. Use grow lights. Keep them 2 to 3 inches above the tops of the seedlings. Run them 14 to 16 hours a day. The goal is a seedling that is short, stocky, and dark green. A seedling that is tall, pale, and bending is telling you it needs more light. For air movement, run a small fan near your seedlings for an hour or 2 each day. It builds strong stems and prepares the plants for outdoor wind. A tomato transplant with a thick, sturdy stem will establish faster and handle weather better than a spindly one. When your tomato seedlings have outgrown their starting cells, roots are showing at the bottom, or the plant is starting to look too big for its container, move them to a larger pot. A 4-inch pot is a good first step, then up to a 6-inch pot or larger if needed before transplanting outside. Here's the tomato trick that makes all the difference. Bury the stem. Tomatoes can grow roots all along their buried stem. When you pot up, bury the seedling deeper than it was growing. Sometimes up to 2/3 of the stem can go underground. All those buried stem nodes will develop into roots, and you'll end up with a stronger, better anchored plant with a much larger root system. You will use this same technique when you plant out in the garden. It's one of the great secrets to strong tomato transplants. Tomatoes are more sensitive to the hardening off process than brassicas or peas. They've spent weeks in a warm, sheltered, consistent indoor environment. The outdoor world, with its wind, temperature swings, and direct sun, is a real shock if you just set them out without preparation. Start 7 to 10 days before your transplant date. Set plants outside in a sheltered spot, out of direct afternoon sun and protected from wind, for just an hour or 2 the first day. Add time every day. Move them gradually into more sun and more wind. By the end of the process, they should be spending full days outside and handling direct sun without wilting. Here are some signs of insufficient hardening off. White or bleached patches on leaves from sunscald, wilting that doesn't recover, or transplants that just sit and sulk for weeks after going in the ground. A well-hardened transplant, by contrast, barely misses a beat. These are the 2 rules for planting tomatoes in Zone 4. 1. Your last frost date has passed. For most of Zone 4, that's after May 10th to the 15th. Check your local forecast. A late frost on a tomato transplant can damage or kill it, and young tomatoes have no cold tolerance. 2. The soil is at least 60 degrees. Tomatoes planted in cold soil just sit there. They don't die, but they don't grow either. The plant essentially goes dormant and waits. Meanwhile, a transplant that goes into warm soil takes off immediately. You can actually catch up to and surpass an earlier planted cold soil tomato within 2 weeks. Check your soil temperature. If it's not 60 yet, wait. It will be soon. Let's get planting. Dig a hole deep enough to bury the plant up to its lowest set of leaves, or even deeper. Strip off any leaves that will be below the soil surface. Set the plant in the hole, backfill with soil, firm gently, and water in well. Spacing is different for different varieties. 18 to 24 inches for compact determinate varieties, 24 to 36 inches for larger indeterminate types. They look ridiculously far apart when they're small. By August, they'll be filling every inch of that space. Even after your average last frost date, Zone 4 can surprise you. Keep a few options on hand. A wall of water or similar water-filled plant protector can extend your planting date by several weeks and protect plants down to around 16 degrees. A simple frost blanket or row cover draped over plants on a cold night provides several degrees of protection. A 5-gallon bucket turned upside down over a small plant works in a pinch. Determinate tomatoes stay more compact and don't need as much support as tall indeterminates. A sturdy tomato cage, a single stake, or a short section of cattle panel works well. Get the support in place at planting time. It's much harder to stake an established plant without breaking branches. Take it from me, I mess up all the time. Determinate varieties don't need pruning. They grow to their genetically determined size, set their fruit, and that's it. Let them do their thing. Indeterminate tomatoes grow continuously and benefit from some management. The main technique is removing suckers, the shoots that emerge in the crotch between the main stem and a side branch. Left alone, suckers become full branches and the plant becomes a large, dense tangle with a lot of foliage and sometimes fewer, slower ripening fruits. In colder zones especially, pruning to one or two main stems and removing suckers regularly helps the plant focus its energy on ripening the fruit it has rather than endlessly making new branches. This is important late in the season when you want every bit of energy going towards ripening existing tomatoes before frost. You don't need to be aggressive about it. Remove the suckers when they're small, finger-sized or smaller, so the wound is minimal. Leave the lowest couple of suckers if the plant is looking a little thin. Consistent watering is the single most important thing you can do for your tomatoes once they're in the ground and growing. Inconsistent watering, wet, then dry, then wet, causes blossom end rot, a calcium deficiency disorder where the bottom of the fruit turns black and leathery. The plant can't take up calcium efficiently when moisture levels swing dramatically. The fix is not just to add calcium, it's to water consistently. Aim for an inch of water per week from rain and irrigation combined. Drip irrigation or a soaker hose is ideal because it delivers water directly to the root zone without wetting the foliage, which reduces disease. Mulch around your tomatoes once the soil has warmed. Mulch holds moisture, reduces watering frequency, and keeps soil-borne disease from splashing up onto lower leaves. For feeding, tomatoes are moderate feeders. A light application of a balanced fertilizer or compost tea every 2 to 3 weeks is plenty during the growing season. I've created a short organic fertilizer quick guide for you to download for free so you know exactly what to do with your tomatoes and other plants this summer organically. Information is in the description. Once flowers appear, switch to a lower nitrogen, higher phosphorus feed to encourage fruiting rather than leafy growth. In Zone 4, the first fall frost for me usually arrives in late September to mid-October. As that date approaches, you need a plan for your remaining green tomatoes. About 2 to 3 weeks before your expected first frost, pinch off any new flowers that have formed. They will not have time to develop into mature fruit. By removing them, you direct the plant's remaining energy towards ripening the tomatoes they already have on the vine. When frost is imminent, you have choices. If it's a light frost, a brief dip to 30 or 31 degrees overnight, covering plants with frost blanket can buy you another week or two of vine ripening. If a hard freeze is coming, harvest everything. Green tomatoes, half-ripe tomatoes, everything. Green tomatoes ripen indoors just fine. Do not put them in the refrigerator. Cold temperatures stop the ripening process and ruin the flavor. Set them stem side down on a countertop or in a paper bag in a cool room around 55 to 65 degrees and check on them every couple of days. They'll ripen slowly over several weeks. An end of season windowsill full of ripening tomatoes in October is a satisfying sight in Zone 4 gardening, especially if the canning season is done and you want to see another tomato. Remember those early tomatoes killing aristocrats? The real culprit, it turns out, was pewter. Aristocrats ate off pewter plates, which were high in lead. Tomatoes are highly acidic, and that acid leached the lead right out of the plate and into the food. The tomato wasn't the poison, the plate was. Poor people who ate off wooden boards had been enjoying tomatoes just fine the whole time and couldn't understand what the fuss was about. In Zone 4, tomatoes take planning. They take the right variety, the right timing, and a little patience with the season. But when you bite into a sun-warmed sun gold or sun sugar straight off the vine in July, or slice a celebrity that you started from seed back in March, it's very clear why people have been going to all this trouble for a fruit that was once considered poison.
In the next part of my Zone 4 growing series, I'm tackling peppers, the warm season crop that makes a lot of northern gardeners anxious, and for good reason. But with the right varieties, the right timing, and a few season extension tips, we have peppers within our reach in Zone 4. Until next time, this is Carol at Almost 2 Acres. Let's get growing.